I feel like someone else should do the intro in future because like my image keeps showing up on YouTube. So maybe someone else. We'll rotate it next time. Maybe Christopher or. All right. So what's new in OpenOps and the world of AI at Mattermost? So just talk about new features, new observations, new use cases, things we're playing with, demos that are cool. Anyone want to kick off the conversation?
Yeah, sure. So what some of the stuff I've been working on the past week, a bunch of boring productization stuff like cleaning up some security stuff. But I've also been working on making the meeting summarization not break so often. So there's a long meeting. Actually, let me share my screen. It's actually going to show this in the R&D meeting as well. But there's a long dev meeting that's too long. And now, if we go summarize meeting audio. While that's happening, I will explain what's different now.
Sorry, can you reduce your screen resolution and just kind of make it squarish?
Not sure if it'll
just resize. Yeah.
Did that change? Okay.
That's perfect.
All right. So while this is going on, I'll explain like what's different now. So this is a 130 megabyte file, and I think it once you strip the video, it only reduces to like 30 megabytes or something, which is too big for the Whisper API. So what it's doing is now it's just transcoding it on the fly, and like reducing the quality of the audio, actually down to where Whisper kind of like reduces it anyway. So we shouldn't see any loss in performance. And then the other thing it's going to do is the actual output of the transcript is too long. So what it's going to do is it's going to summarize it in chunks. So summarize each chunk, then summarize the summarized chunks to create the final summary. It's not really much of a demo because it's just sort of like, yes, it works on this bigger file now, but yeah. And of course it's transcoding. So while my laptop is doing other things. Oh, here it goes. Okay, there we go. Now it's gonna.
That's awesome.
Make a lovely meeting summary.
Whoa, that's awesome. It's like typing in two areas at once.
Yeah, that's the multi-streaming thing. We've had that for a little bit.
Multi-streaming.
The multi-streaming is great. It'll go in multiple places at the same time on the same message.
Yeah, so it's essentially making two calls out to the LLM and asking for two things at the same time, but then streaming them both to the same post. So it's like typing in two places. It's fun.
Is there a way we can? So I know after this is so love it. I'm just thinking about. Okay, is there something we can say in this meeting that would have the summary generate release notes about what was just demoed, and maybe have it as part of the YouTube video, and also something we could just kind of pull into the next like announcement? Like would be just think about like there's this concept of thunking. I think we've talked about, right? There's thinking, which is real good work, and there's thunking, which is just kind of schlepping stuff around before we can do real intellectual work. And I'm wondering about the thunking of, we just did a really cool demo video. We explained what the change was. There's the movement of that change into the change log. There's the marketing of this new feature. And what people really care about is like the velocity at which these things are happening, right? I think that makes this project and this work like really exciting. And I think it could bring sort of more contributors and more attention and more adoption. So is there a way that, like, what would be let's say the vision was after this meeting, the summary is auto-generated, the YouTube video is automatically pushed, the transcription summary the summary is automatically pushed, and it could even like clip out part of the demo with why the demo is sort of relevant. Like what's the stuff that's easy, medium, hard for what our platform can do?
That's a lot to break down. There's a lot of different asks and a lot of different technologies. If you're the one to break it down, we can do that. But so the first ask I think was like extracting like release notes from like talking. I would say that would be something I've been thinking about doing, is having the ability to customize the meeting summaries. Because right now it's just sort of generic, and you can't say like, oh, please ignore the like if you're gonna do it for the R&D meeting, like please ignore the icebreakers, like don't include those in the summary or whatever, right? And so being able to like add your own little text beforehand, so you could add something there like, hey, please include a section of release notes for anything that you think might be release notes, and that would be a way to extract that. Automatic posting and stuff, I mean, that's just Zapier. Like in terms of like extracting interesting parts, I think Andrew, you were using a tool that did that.
I was using a separate AI tool called Opus that you can upload video clips to. It basically would, the AI would analyze it and then clip out parts that it thought would be socially relevant, interesting, and then do the captioning. That was all done by AI that y'all saw.
Yeah, so if we want to do something like that for ourselves, like for like a calls, like a calls recording or something, I would say it's probably one, make a transcript with timestamps, get the LLM to be like, hey, what are some interesting parts of this transcript? Pull those out. Then you have timestamps and you can just extract those sections. And then Zapier and whatnot to, do the extraction.
Excellent. And the reason why I'm asking this is like, all DevSecOps teams probably want something like this, right? Which is I go from a demo to I go to release notes, right? To sort of like the marketing pieces. And if we can sort of, prototype that and openly share that scenario, then other people can build it with their own tools. All right. So excellent. Maybe just to shift gears a bit, we do have a number of folks from our customer teams. And what we do in these open ops scenarios is like open up to questions, whether it's from customers or for demos or things like that. We also had, I think, an initiative where we have sales engineering sort of stand up their own Mattermost servers and connect with shared channels. So those are all sort of options. And if there's any sort of like non-confidential questions or discussion points to have here, happy to do them. We can also do it in the confidential section in futures. Sorry, I should have called that out while we're doing the confidential talk before this, but any sort of non-confidential questions, things that you want to ask that the community might also be interested in, any sort of like speed bumps you're hitting as you install things, or just, hey, what about this? Just open floor for anybody.
I would, sorry, I didn't put my hand up, but I would say, I know I asked this a couple of weeks ago, but one tool that I found extremely useful, and I know, Brent, I showed this to you, sort of a demo of it as well in a transcript, and I can send the transcript to everyone afterward. It was, what I did is anonymized, a spreadsheet of just like a ton of data, right? That was just kind of like really messy and it was all over the place. It would have taken me a very long time to analyze it, to sort it out, and to create graphs and things like that, to make sense of it and to create a story around the data, right? But what I did is, again, I anonymized the data, used the ChatGPT code interpreter, right? Uploaded the spreadsheet there, and immediately first question was, what are some interesting graphs that I can create with this spreadsheet? And it started to give me like ideas. It helped me from the brainstorming phase, right? And it all the way down to, correcting some things in the spreadsheet. It said, hey, there's some things that I found that, it's going to be difficult for me to interpret. Can I fix these things? And I said, yes, go ahead. And it got me to sort of a baseline where the data was all clean, which would have taken me a very long time to figure out. It did it in a matter of seconds, right? And then from that point, it was like, okay, great. I saw your ideas about the graphs. Let's go this direction instead. I want to, from the perspective of, say, this customer and this sort of reasoning, I want to be able to analyze this data from this sort of viewpoint. And so it did that. And then it produced graphs that I would have normally had to have done in Excel or Google Sheets in a matter of seconds, right? And this whole conversation took me, 10, 15 minutes, where it would have taken me hours to do, and a lot of toil and frustration and energy, right? And I was able to produce a really good analysis of this huge data set from the perspective of the customer, and it gave us a lot of really good insight into sort of what the conversation may look like when we speak to the customer, right? And I found that to be extremely useful. And I'm just thinking, ahead, at any point would be amazing to have that ability in Mattermost to like, be able to upload a document, right? And then from there, start to ask questions about the data, and then produce, documents or graphs or anything like that, right? So incredibly powerful. And I was just blown away by it and how accurate and how sort of, thorough it was, right? So just wanted to put that out there, but I don't know where we're at with that, but I think that's an incredibly valuable tool that customers may be able to make use of down the road.
Yeah, definitely. That's really
Yeah.
cool stuff.
If
In
anyone's
terms of like,
interested, I'll send you. Sorry to cut you off. I'll post the transcript in our internal AI channel for anyone to have a look, because it was really interesting. So
sounds good. In terms of like where that's at Mattermost, it's definitely on the list of like having the ability to like interrogate attachments and stuff. It turns out that that's actually going to be easier since we already do that for Elasticsearch. We just need to get it into the AI, and probably there's file formats that need to be added to the list of supported ones that we would want. I haven't checked to see how good our PDF one is, for instance, because that's a particularly hard one.
Yeah, and it's an open conversation, so I'll say this, openly on sort of public record. We do need to think about like where the line is between sort of like community and enterprise features, and what's advanced versus sort of not advanced. The one thing that's consistent about all the AI stuff is that it's all already paid, right? Like you kind of need a paid subscription to get any sort of AI backend. So there's no sort of like, so people are already paying for the backend. At what point do we put in something in Mattermost is free to pay, packaging for features like this? So it's just I want to be public, so it's like, hey, if this shows up later, at least on August 17th, this was in the public discussion, but it's something we need to think about. It's like, what are the boundaries around paid versus free and open source? I do think we continue to have this in the backlog. It's just something we need to think about as we go to product packaging. There's some product packaging work, and I think this could be, given that it's using the Elastic APIs and Elastic is a paid feature, right? Is that something like, where do we draw the lines? So let's continue to keep working. We will think about packaging. That doesn't, I'd like everyone's input here on that packaging discussion, and there's going to be a separate work stream to figure that out. But completely agree that file analysis is something we want, and it's got a lot of benefit. What I'm thinking about that in addition is, and this might be another paid feature, right? Because it is important. So think about paid features are a lot for compliance, right? And security and reporting, and we try to unlock as much value as we can for the end user. So here's another example of a paid feature we might consider, is that when you upload a file, right, maybe there's policy enforcement for that, right? It's like, okay, this is going to like XYZ model, here are the rules, and you as a admin can enforce the rules. Like, what sort of files? Is there like, this is a really, here's an idea for a paid feature, right? I'm just going to ante with this. You upload a file and it asks the person who's uploading, like, is this internal IP? Is there any PII? Like, this is going to get sent to the back end, right? Or there's actually like custom policy based on file type, or a pre-scan of the information. So just think about like compliance features for that. I think there's explicit, which is just, hey, answer some questions, like sign off and have a record of that in your system. And then there's more advanced ones, which is like a pre-scan with AI. Andrew?
You bring up a really interesting point about the idea of having technology that can have, it's basically like metadata, like a schema, like a protocol that goes with data that goes in and allows you to designate it for certain uses from certain origins, belong to certain folks. That kind of like specification sounds actually really compelling for the kind of data that folks would put on Mattermost and use on it universally. And I'm kind of thinking that this would be a really great opportunity where, with our expertise and knowledge and our specific insights on how folks use this, actually propose a standard or a way to actually, specify or identify this data in a metadata type way, because then that's a really great opportunity for us and for the people that are using Mattermost. And then that would then lean into what you're talking about, maybe a future SKU option or something. But ultimately, I do think that going back to the wish, the the thoughts of like, what are some ways that we can position ourselves as leaders with thoughts? I think that's one that would definitely visit.
Excellent. Thank you. We got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to try and ask for some next actions. One next action, Eric Sethna, who's not here, please review and do start thinking about, packaging and pricing in terms of what might be a paid feature, like some of the compliance features for file upload we just discussed, or other sort of compliance, like custom compliance features. The next one is, I'm not sure, maybe this might be Andrew. Could we get the summary of these AI mind melds into the YouTube text? Which will
yes.
help. Okay, thank you. So so Andrew Ziegler, yeah, thanks for helping with the summaries of the meetings into YouTube text. That will help with SEO and just help for discoverability. Any other, and then I think maybe one other thing which may already be there, Christopher Speller, just on the backlog, sort of file analysis, just somewhere in the backlog. We'll figure out packaging in a little bit, but I think you've got that.
Already in there.
All right, perfect, done already. Anything else for this meeting? All right, love having everyone here. Thank you so much for participating. See you next episode. And next episode, Christopher, could you do the intro so my face doesn't show up? I got this. Like, if you look at the last behind the scenes, there's this weird picture it's got the weirdest picture of me, and I think like they just picked it because
that's just the YouTube
clicks.
way. You have to pick the weirdest picture,
Yeah. So and where we can, yeah. So fine, let's see what happens. Thanks all. See you next time. Bye.